There's a version of you that exists only in the narcissist's narrative, a version they created, a version they needed you to believe in, a version that served their purpose. And for a long time, you thought that version was real. You thought that version was you, but it wasn't. It never was. They told you that you were too sensitive, that you overreacted to everything, that you couldn't take a joke, that you made mountains out of molehills. And you started believing it. You started apologizing for your feelings, minimizing your pain, questioning whether you had a right to be hurt. You became smaller, quieter, less reactive, because you believed you were the problem. But you're not too sensitive. You're human. You have feelings. You respond to pain, to disrespect with hurt, to manipulation with confusion. That's not a flaw. That's not overreacting. That's being alive, being emotionally aware, being connected to yourself. They needed you to believe you were too sensitive so you'd stop calling out their behavior, so you'd stop having boundaries, so you'd accept mistreatment and blame yourself for not being able to handle it. Your sensitivity wasn't the problem. Their cruelty was. They told you that you were difficult, that you demanded too much, that you were never satisfied, that nothing was ever good enough for you. And you started believing it. You started shrinking your needs, lowering your standards, accepting less and less, because you believed you were asking for too much. But you're not difficult. You have needs, basic human needs, for respect, for consistency, for honesty, for emotional safety, for reciprocity. Those aren't demands. Those aren't unreasonable expectations. Those are the bare minimum of what a relationship should offer. And you weren't asking for too much. You were asking for what you deserved, what everyone deserves. They needed you to believe you were difficult so you'd stop expecting them to meet you halfway, so you'd stop asking for what you needed, so you'd feel guilty for wanting basic decency. Your needs weren't the problem. Their inability to meet them was. They told you that you were crazy, that you imagined things, that you remembered conversations wrong, that events didn't happen the way you thought they did. And you started believing it. You started doubting your memory, questioning your perception, wondering if you could trust your own mind, because they were so certain, so confident, and you were so confused. But you're not crazy. Your memory is real. Your perception is valid. What you experienced actually happened. They lied. They manipulated. They twisted reality. Not because you were unreliable, but because they needed you to be. Because if you trusted yourself, you'd see through them. You'd recognize the patterns. You'd know you were being manipulated. They needed you to believe you were crazy so you'd stop trusting yourself. So you'd start depending on them to tell you what was real. So they could control your reality. Your sanity wasn't the problem. Their gaslighting was. They told you that you were unlovable, that you were lucky they stayed, that no one else would put up with you, that you should be grateful for whatever scraps of affection they threw your way. And you started believing it. You started clinging, trying harder, becoming whoever they needed you to be, because you believed they were right, that you were hard to love, that this was the best you could get. But you're not unlovable. You're deeply lovable. You have so much to offer: kindness, loyalty, compassion, the capacity for real connection, the willingness to work on things, to grow, to love fully. Those are gifts. And they were wasted on someone who couldn't receive them, who didn't want a partner, who wanted a supply, a mirror, a source. They needed you to believe you were unlovable so you'd never leave. So you'd accept whatever they offered and ask for nothing more. So you'd be grateful for breadcrumbs. Your lovability wasn't the problem. Their inability to love was. This version of you they created, it's fiction. It's a distorted reflection designed to serve them, to keep you small, to keep you doubting, to keep you trapped. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that it wasn't real. You forgot who you actually were before they started rewriting you. But you're starting to remember now. You're starting to see the difference between who you are and who they said you were. And the gap is enormous. Because the real you, the one they tried to erase, is nothing like the version they created. The real you is strong. Not the fake strength that comes from pretending you're fine, but real strength. The kind that survives what tried to destroy it. The kind that gets up every day even when everything feels impossible. The kind that kept loving even when love was weaponized against you. The real you is perceptive. You saw the truth. You felt the inconsistencies. You knew something was wrong. Your gut was screaming at you the whole time. They just convinced you not to listen. But your intuition was right. It's always been right. You're not broken. Your instincts work perfectly. You just learned to override them. And now you're learning to trust them again. The real you is worthy, not because of what you do or how you perform or how perfectly you meet someone else's needs, but because you exist, because you're human, because worthiness isn't earned. It's inherent. You were born with it, and nothing they said or did could actually take it away. They just convinced you it was gone. The real you has a voice, opinions, boundaries, preferences, dreams, a whole inner world that doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. You're not an extension of someone else. You're not a supporting character. You're a complete person, with depth and complexity and value that exists completely independent of them. This is who you are, not the distorted version they fed you, not the small, doubting, apologetic version you became, but the real you, the one who's been buried under layers of manipulation and gaslighting and psychological abuse, the one who's still there, who's always been there, who's waiting for you to remember her. And you're remembering now, piece by piece. You're shedding the false identity they imposed. You're questioning the beliefs they planted. You're rejecting the narrative they wrote. You're coming back to yourself, to the truth of who you are. You are not too sensitive. You feel deeply, and that's beautiful. You are not difficult. You have standards, and that's healthy. You are not crazy. You were manipulated, and that's real. You are not unlovable. You are with someone incapable of love, and that's tragic. But it's not your truth. Your truth is this. You are strong and perceptive and worthy and whole. You are someone who survived something designed to break you. Someone who's choosing to heal. Someone who's reclaiming the parts of herself that were stolen. Someone who's becoming more herself every single day. So let go of the version they created. Let it dissolve. Let it fade. It was never you anyway. It was just a story they needed you to believe. But you don't have to believe it anymore. You don't have to carry their lies about who you are. You know who you are now. And that knowing, that clarity, that truth is your freedom. Welcome back to yourself. The real one. She's been here all along. Thanks for being here. If you're shedding the false version and reclaiming the real you, share one truth about yourself you're remembering. Let's celebrate who we really are. And subscribe to keep coming home to ourselves. You are not who they said you were. You're so much more.